Hello, everyone. Welcome to the episode 103 of SoLeadSaturday. Our today's guest, Liza, distinguished international career in the fashion industry, has spanned over 30 years. She is renowned as an innovator, creator, entrepreneur, preeminent fashion consultant, and business coach. Her clients have been featured in WWD, InStyle, Glamour, and Harper's Bazaar, and she has coached winners on Project Runway. Liza has a visionary eye and talent for mentorship. She has ushered many young designers to success, even leading a 13-year-old protegee's fashion line to racks in Nordstrom department stores. Fox Business, Fast Company, Authority Magazine, the Vancouver Sun, and others have featured interviews with Liza about her business acumen, and she has written about her business insights for Forbes magazine. Liza is the founder of the Cut Fashion Design Academy, TCFDA, located in Vancouver, BC, Canada. The academy is the only accredited educational institution that offers la carte diploma and certificate course customization with a 1:8 teacher student ratio. By removing the 1 to 4 year commitment, TCFDA eliminates the accrual of excessive student debt, and with its small class size allows students to develop skills quickly and more expertly to move into the workforce and succeed. Wow, this sounds amazing, and definitely we are looking for that kind of a mentoring or coaching for our youth generation or next generation. So let's just welcome her and hear more about her career journey. How did she find her area of interest and managing to lead that? Hey, hi Lisa. Very happy to have you on the show and really appreciate all your time and consideration being on the show. You are the one of the first guests from the fashion industry. So really looking forward to this episode.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited.
Thank you so much. And to begin with, we always ask this question to all our guests, which is kind of a general segment where we try to explore the career journey, or how the interest starts building or one finds their areas of interest or the passion. So how did you find your areas of interest in fashion, and what motivates you to be where you are today?
Yeah, that's always such a good question. I always loved making things, even if I wasn't very good at it. And what's funny is that even when I was young, if I learned how to make something, I wanted to make 100 of them. So I always loved the concept of manufacturing, or that whole. I was making chocolate chip cookies when I loved baking. I still love baking.
Mm-hmm.
But I was making chocolate chip cookies when I was 10, and the recipe it's from this book. It's old book. Anyway, everybody loved these chocolate chip cookies. I started a little neighborhood business. I was making really great money. So I would make, I'd come home from school and make like 5 dozen, 6 dozen, 7 dozen. And then I started taking orders from the neighborhood. So I really like the idea of making many of one thing. And then I always enjoyed sewing. And I was never very good at it because I'm very impatient. You need patience to be a very good sewer. And, but I like putting things together. I always liked fashion. I always I love that whole, whether it be the touch and feel of a magazine. Grew up in the 80s, 70s and 80s. So I love that. And then making something, thinking of something and then being able to make it. And then put it all together and style it. So back when I was graduating and I wanted to go on to further my education in fashion, we had a family friend whose daughter had gone to FIDM, which is in Los Angeles, Fashion Institute Design and Merchandising, I think it's called. And I didn't want to go to LA. So I started looking into schools that were in Canada. I wanted to get out of Vancouver. There was only one school in Vancouver, which no longer exists, which is really sad. She was amazing. The lady that owned it, it was Helen LaFaux. But I wanted to get out of Vancouver. And I found the school that I went to, which was International Academy of Merchandising and Design. I think AI bought them several years later, but long and short of it, I started going to fashion school. And then I worked and interned there for different companies, small studios. Back in the 80s, Toronto was really a hub for manufacturing and young designers, and it was really exciting. And And then when I moved back to Vancouver, I opened a studio, which quickly turned into a factory, and which quickly turned into, I was at age 24, I had, I think, 40 sewers and about 150 home sewers, and we were manufacturing like 15,000 units a month. So it was, the path was set when I was young, making 100 pot holders and cookies and all that stuff.
Wow, that's great, actually. And the way you mentioned, I think business was there from the start, right? Irrespective of which field you land up, whether it is a baking or the fashion industry.
Yeah.
I think the genes of a business were there already when you were growing up. So thank you so much for sharing. And moving towards our next segment is more about questions from the audience. We always, whenever we have the case, we post the upcoming guest post and we collect the questions from the audience. So we have a couple of questions shortlisted for you. So the first question that we have under that segment is, do one thing, do it well, and you will make money. Why do you think so? What's your takeaway on it? And why can't you do multiple things at the same time?
So I'll tell a story on this, which summarizes it really well. So when I started that business that turned into a factory, when I started the studio, I was 20 and I borrowed $10,000 from my parents, and they co-signed a loan for $15,000. This was 1989, and I was $25,000 in debt, and I had a small studio, and I had only, of that $25,000, I'd spent it all wrong, and I truly only had about $800 in my bank account. I had one sewer that I had hired because my mom was my first customer in the studio, but some other people just from where we were and seeing me on the street were coming in, so I had some work. But I owed this debt. And I always had an interest in film. So I looked at the list that you look at anyways for the films that are shooting in the city. And I called and said, I'm a wardrobe designer. Do you need a wardrobe designer? I went through the list. Anyway, long and short of it, I got hired for a non-union film. And back then I was young. I was 20. You could do this. I'd open my studio at 8 a.m. I'd go to the film set, work 12 hours there, and then go back to my studio, see what the sewer had done. When I finished the film, I had paid my parents back more than half their money. And where I had my studio, other film companies were also in that building. So one of the producers started hiring me for his commercials to handle all the styling. I paid back my $25,000 loan within 12 months. And when you do something, people start sharing your name or this. So I got hired on another film job. I had 3 sewers in my studio at this point. I was getting bigger contracts. And I was, even though now I'm 22 maybe, but you're still young. So you've got the go. You're chasing. But I'll never forget, one night I came home, it was probably 11 o'clock at night. And I think I must've been about 22, 23. And my father said, you're going to have to make a decision soon, which one you're going to follow, because wherever you put your attention and focus, that's what grows. And that is very true, because when you're starting out, so of course, if you're a rich person or you have a successful business and it's bringing in a lot of money, not some money, but a lot of money, sure, you can start another business, and because you can hire the right person to manage the cash cow that's bringing you in the money, and then you can go off and do other things. But when you're starting out, wherever you put your focus, that is really what is going to grow. So can you do several things? Yes, you can at the right time. But at the beginning, at those beginning stages, when you're setting the foundation and it's growing, until you build the right team around you, and even then, you will always notice wherever your main focus is what's happening the best. I mean, I'm a small fry. Take a look at Oprah when she started the OWN network. She started it and then she was doing everything else and she had to quit everything else and she had to fire everybody and go and run that network for it to not go bust. So, I mean, she obviously can do everything, but my point is the example of that story is she needed to bring her focus there to get it running to a point where she could leave it. So that's why I say, wherever you put your focus, that's what will grow.
Oh, wow.
Then you build from there.
That's very important message, I guess, because it's always like you try multiple things and once you find that area where you would like to grow further, then you continue your focus and fully get involved into it. So it's not like a part-time or side hustle kind of a thing anymore, and you will be like earning the income like a full-time basis kind of. So thank you so much for sharing that, and it was a great story to hear. And moving towards our one more question under that same segment is, what skills do you think are necessary to be successful in the fashion industry?
Well, in any industry, but the thing about the fashion industry, people always think when you're talking, if you're in the fashion industry or you start studying it, it's much broader. But the fashion industry, like any industry, is more than just design or sewing. So there's merchandising, there's operations, there's, it's a business. It's no different than, the lifestyle industry or the hotel industry. There's so many different aspects. There's the business of fashion. So if it's on the design side, though, I mean, at the end of the day, if you're doing business, like on the business side, people bring in operations, chief operating officers from different companies to run fashion companies, because fundamentally you're managing. But on the design side, if you're going to go into the creative aspect of it, depending, if you are starting your own line or you want to have your own brand, you need to have a point of view. A designer, when you look at any really great designer or a great brand, they have a point of view. What you're connecting with is that point of view. I always tell my students, I teach Launch Your Line, and it's part-time in the school. But at the end of the day, the making of it is the easy part. You have to know how to sell it. So, and that's if you are doing something independently on your own brand. You've got to want to put yourself out there. You've got to be okay with criticism. You've got to be okay with not everybody loving you. And you've got to be okay with everybody loving you too, because sometimes things just really, really take off. So you need to figure out how you're gonna react to that. As far as a career goes, any vocational skill is a hard skill. So we have a lot of students that come to our classes and take our diploma or our certificates, and they're always amazed at how much work it is, how hard it is. And I think that there is this idea that design school is easy, or the design business is, ha ha he he, frilly frilly. It's hard. So you have to really it has to be your craft. If you're doing pattern making or draping, it's your craft, and you're always improving, you're always learning, and that's that eagerness and that curiosity is something that comes from inside. So I suppose really the answer is, on the design aspect, curiosity. Really always being curious. Even if you're on the design and the drawing, you want to see what's happening. You want to feel what's happening in the world. You want to, however it's affecting you, you need to be able to resonate those feelings. So curiosity is very important.
Yep. That's true, actually. And I think it is applicable to any field, as you mentioned, that, it can be applicable to any industry. It's not just specific to the fashion, but you need to have that interest as well as the curiosity going.
Yeah.
Because whatever you are doing right now, maybe it will not be the same after, 2-3 years or 5 years or 10 years. So you have to keep adapting and be curious all the time.
Exactly.
So thank you so much for sharing. And we have like kind of a fun segment now, where I'm going to give you 3 keywords which are moreover associated with your profile or the career. And you have to just tell me whatever comes to your mind. So it can be kind of, replacement keyword or an abstract definition or anything creative that you could think of. You have to just tell me. So are you ready?
Sure.
So the first keyword that we have is brand. Brand.
Mm-hmm. And so I'm supposed to tell you what comes to mind, or what am I
Yeah, what comes to your mind whenever you hear the word brand?
Levi's.
Okay, wow.
And the Marlboro Man.
Yeah, that's a good one. Second keyword that we have is innovation.
Innovation, babies.
Oh, and the third keyword is marketing.
Genius.
Wow.
Genius.
This is a really great one, actually, because as you mentioned, you have to learn the marketing and sales actually when it comes to business. Because it ought a lot more about, attracting the customers. And
you have to know who you are as a brand.
Yeah.
Who you are and who your customer is.
Yes. So thank you so much for sharing. And it was quite impromptu. So thank you. Moving towards our next segment, which is more about, knowing you little more. So exploring your career work or volunteering. And there are so many things actually associated with your profile actually, because you started your career and your profile is completely aligned to specific area, fashion, and then you are growing and you are in your own business. So tell us more about the Cut Fashion Design Academy.
Sure. So when I moved back, I was in New York for 12 years. And when I moved back in 2015,
mm-hmm.
I started I thought, what am I going to do moving back here? Anyway, I started a product development studio. And when I was hiring pattern makers and stuff, to be honest, I was quite disappointed
mm-hmm.
for them. I was disappointed in these young graduates from design school that knew something, but for me, I just felt after 2 to 4 years of committing yourself, they should be better.
Mm-hmm.
They should have more to offer. So I thought, well, I should start a school. So, and I was already consulting and doing 2-day workshops, how to start your own business when I was in New York. So I started developing curriculums. I contacted and brought on 2 lead instructors that teach at the other larger academies in Vancouver and Canada. And we built out curriculums. And then the Cut Design Academy was born. And it was founded on my basic principles, where I believe that a vocational trade cannot be taught in a room of 15 or 14 or 20 people. Students need attention, especially I feel that schools haven't really kept up with technology or the young generation. Education has stayed very much being delivered in the same way, when for the last 20 years these students or this generation has had access to so much information. Their attention is already tested, and they need to be able to focus when they're doing something. So the core thing is a 1-on-8, so 1 teacher, 8 students maximum, and also so small class sizes, as well as we want our students when they graduate to be able to know and feel that they have something to offer when they go into a job, versus the mentality of walking into a job saying, what do you have to offer me? Because when you're just graduating, you need to have that feeling of, I can bring this to the table. And I feel that sometimes, because of how large class sizes are, how there isn't that one-on-one, there's also students aren't excited to say, look at, I can do this. Look at how great I'd be for you. So you automatically default to, oh, I get this with this job. So you see what I'm saying? It's a bit subconscious. Yep. So I really wanted to, the second principle really was, we want to encourage and nurture a way of thinking that is of value to our students and to the industry and to the job we go into. And so the cut was born. And also for our teachers, you know, we don't want to exhaust our teachers. We want them to be capable and able, and that's why, you know, 8 is our max. If we ever have 10 in a class, pattern making is our busiest course. The second there's 9 or 10, that teacher has a TA right away, so that the students are getting what they as much time, and the teacher is not being exhausted, so that they can deliver what they need to deliver during their class time. And it's worked out well. Like we've only, you know, we got accredited 4 months before COVID. And, you know, so we should be double the size we are now, but that's okay. But we've already had alumni placed in Tentree, in Apparel Mark, in Arc'teryx. So, you know, I'm happy the philosophy is working.
Yeah, that's great actually. And then, you know, we are discussing a lot more about your academy, and I would encourage your students actually who are looking to build their career, definitely check out your academy as well, if they can do the diploma through your coaching.
Yeah, well, they can do the diploma, and they can also, like the way I've also done our school is every course can be taken as a separate course. So let's say somebody is 30, and actually we had this woman, she was 40, and she had been in Selfridges in the UK in operations and merchandising for 15 years. She always wanted to be on the design side. She didn't want to spend 2 years getting a fashion design diploma. She didn't care about the other stuff. She wanted to make patterns, and she wanted to get really good. That's where she knew her love was. So she took just our pattern making and garment assembly certificate, and then our second level couture certificate. So she's now got a job. We placed her in Fall Raven. She's a fantastic pattern maker and a fantastic tailor, because our pattern making class is also, it's 50-50 with sewing. You can literally sew anything you see when you finish. So you can just take the certificates, the 14-week certificates, like an a la carte, and build into a diploma. You can take 5 years to do it if you want. You can do it in 2 years. But the point is, you can do it a la carte. So financially, it's far more accessible and available and doable, and timing wise as well as interest wise, because there's nothing worse than having to take you know, a product dev certificate when you're not really interested in that. You just want to be doing the patterns and getting better and better and better at patterns. You see what I'm saying? So anyway, it's worked out well.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. And it's really very, you know, fun talking to you, as well as we are getting a lot of insights about the industry, as well as how one can run their businesses and grow further in that particular areas of interest.
All our classes, by the way, are live online as well. So if people come to
anybody can attend from anywhere.
And we have rally cams. It's like being right in class. It's actually quite.
Yeah, that's great actually. And I would encourage audience to check that out as well. Moving towards our next segment is more about, you know, summarizing tips or advice. But as we have discussed a lot of tips or advice, I would like to, you know, get more specific, like, you know, in this particular segment, like any books or courses that you would encourage. We already discussed about your academy, but one more important aspect is, like, you know, guiding you to career success. You talked a couple of things about it, but how young is too young to you, and how do you see it actually, where you can give the advice to the people who are students who are looking to build their career or looking to find their areas of interest and, you know, get that long-term career option?
I don't think any age is too young. If you're interested. I mean, if your parents are pushing you to do something you don't want to do, then it's too young. It doesn't matter what age you are. But I don't think any age. I mean, I had, when I was living in New York, I had a student that was 9 years old, and she was a prodigy. She was in Mensa, and she was a phenomenal artist. Her parents found me. She wanted to do a clothing line. And by 13, she was the youngest designer to ever be in Nordstrom's. There's actually a Fast Company article with her and me. And she's the youngest designer ever to have a line in Nordstrom's. So she was always going to be she was in Parsons at 14. She had graduated high school and was doing Parsons at 14. So I think if it interests you, you're already gravitating towards it. So I don't think age is the thing. I think overexposure is. Like, for example, if I like sewing and all I'm doing is sewing all day long and I'm 12 and I'm not doing the other things like, maybe playing volleyball or doing something else. I just don't think that's a great strategy. No matter how much you love something, a partner of mine was a major league ball player in New York. Like at the time, the top guy at the Yankees. And even he said, to me, the biggest difference I'm seeing now is parents really focus on one thing. So if their kid likes hockey, everything's hockey camp, 5 a.m. hockey. And he said, when I was young, my parents, he said, he was in baseball, obviously major league baseball player, but he said, I went to college on a football scholarship. So I was doing football, baseball, and I can't remember, soccer. So he said, I was doing all three in high school. And so much so that my career direction for college was football, but I ended up doing, becoming who he became in baseball. So I think it works the same way when you're asking an age question. You can love something like reading. You can love reading so much, but if a kid just sits in a corner and reads, he's missing or she's missing out on other things. So I think it's just balance. So I don't think necessarily any age is too young versus balance.
Yep. And it's very wise, actually. So thank you so much for sharing. And now we are moving towards the closure due to the time limit. But our last segment is more about leadership. So the way you are leading the next generation or coaching them, I can see the true leader in you. So what is your leadership style and any specific leader that you always follow or admire, and why?
The leaders I follow are old school. I know this is going to sound crazy, but I go riding a lot, horseback Western riding, where we actually move cows.
Wow.
I haven't gone for a long time. It's been our gang of friends hasn't gone for 10 years, but we used to go to, these places we went were family run actual cattle ranches, and they were born cowboys, and they were 6 generations. Like their family had settled there, kind of like what you see in Yellowstone, just not that rich. But that style of leadership I've always been inclined towards, which is really honest, really practical, logical, and really just whoever, I gravitate towards people that sort of say, sure, you can do it that way, but here's what's going to happen. The choice is yours. I gravitate towards that, and I respect that a lot. And I think I think the world needs a little bit more of that.
Yeah, that's true.
And I'm like that with my students in the sense of, I nurture that, and my staff. I mean, all of my staff, not all, but whoever takes it up, takes up the opportunity I provide. But the younger staff, when they come in, the entry level, they get a certificate. So it's a $7,000 gift where I give them a certificate to better their skills. It increases their salary level and their worth for other companies and my own, of course. So it is that nurturing and that building, and I expect them to do the class as much as it's a gift or a bonus, however they want to look at it. But they've sort of struggled a bit because they're also working and they're not doing their homework, and it's like, no, it's 14 weeks. You have to treat this like you're in it, or you fail and you don't get it again. So I'm very practical that way as well, because this is life.
Yep. That's very true. And I always say that, whoever young person I meet, I always tell them that it is like life is a long journey, actually. And you always get more opportunities, or you have to sometimes grab the opportunity or create the opportunity along the way. So it's a lot more about that, actually. It's always evolving. There is nothing like, hard and fast that you can achieve. And even though you achieve something at very early age, again, sustainability and keeping that success for the long term is a different story. So definitely it is very, very important that, you are leader in your own life and a career. and lead it in a way that you never feel like I would have done this. You have no regrets, about saying anything. So you can start with the side hustle, whatever you enjoy. Actually, you always can find time.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So thank you so much for sharing. And it was really very pleasure to connect with you and discuss and explore your career journey as well as learn from it. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It was so nice to meet you.
Yeah, same here. Thank you. All right. So this is all about Liza and the way she's managing to lead her areas of expertise. Before we close our today's episode, we have a closure quote from Mushia Prad, and the quote says, "What you wear is how you present yourself to the world." Especially today, when human contacts are so quick, fashion is instant language. So, on that quote, we are closing today's episode. See you guys in the next episode. Until we meet, happy leading. Let's lead together. Stay safe. Bye for now.